There is mutual interest between the Baltimore Orioles and Jack Flaherty. Updates on Alex Bregman and the pursuit from the Boston Red Sox and the Detroit Tigers. And Roki Sasaki. Where does he ultimately go? All of that and more next here at The Upside. And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us on New Year's Eve. Hopefully you guys are having fun with your family, friends, and celebrating and just enjoying the day. Long day at work for all of us here, but we're back here to kind of break down all the latest from what's happening on the Hot Stove. We'll start with the Baltimore Orioles. There was a couple of reports today that Jack Flaherty and the Baltimore Orioles have had discussions very recently and could very well get a deal done relatively soon. Now, how that deal ultimately might look is still up in the air, of course, but it is very curious that the Baltimore Orioles a couple of years ago were in this same boat and had the chance to re-sign him as one of their own free agents and said, thanks, but no, we'll let you go ahead and leave for the Detroit Tigers. Now, a year later, here they are willing to re-sign him to, or bring him back to Baltimore after it didn't go well the first time around, to a multi-year contract. Very curious to see how this ultimately breaks down for the Orioles, and if this is just the first move to address a pitching need that Corbin Burns certainly left them. Say they bring in Jack Flaherty. Does this rule them out from Dylan Cease, Luis Castillo, Pablo Lopez, Sandy Alcantara at the deadline? All of these are up in the air when it comes to Baltimore, but I do find it very curious they're at least revisiting things with him. Of course, they had to be familiar enough with him and comfortable enough to make the trade at the deadline a couple of years ago. Ultimately, we all saw how that didn't work out, and really they didn't even use him in the postseason aside from mop-up duty, just as a guy to eat some innings when they were getting shellacked by the Rangers. He did a good enough job to keep them in it. They almost came back in that one game, I do recall. but things did not go well his first time around in Baltimore. Leaves, goes to Detroit, has a good first half, goes to the Dodgers at the end of the year, and wins a World Series. So we'll see where he ultimately signs. But I find it curious that the Baltimore Orioles are the team that's kicking the tires here on Flaherty. But again, I don't think this solves their issues at the top of that rotation. Burnes leaves a big void in that rotation, and as much as Flaherty looked the part of an ace last year with the Tigers at points, he's never been that guy for an extended period of time. So while he's a good starting pitcher, and at his best is probably a really good number 2, is more likely a 3 in that rotation. So again, leaves a lot to be desired here. More 3s in that rotation doesn't get them anywhere when it comes to October baseball. They still need a lead dog in that rotation, and they're still not going to have one even after they bring in Flaherty. Appreciate you guys joining us. Welcome in Roy, Holly. Appreciate you guys spending some of your New Year's with us. Let's go ahead and head on to the next news item with Alex Bregman. We reported last night anyway that the Detroit Tigers were all in on Alex Bregman. The thing is that the money was continuing to be the issue there. And it sounds like there is significant interest from Alex Bregman to go to the Detroit Tigers. Remember, A.J. Hinch is the manager there. He'd be a great fit in that infield. They do have the flexibility to bring him in and still be able to kind of have a cohesive infield there with Gleyber Torres being brought in or bringing him in, and Colt Keith being moved over to first base. They have a young guy there in Jace Young that could be moved around, possibly even to a corner outfield spot if necessary. But this would certainly be a big boon for that lineup. They need another bat in that lineup for them to really take that next step as a team that we could view as a wild card contender, possibly even a division winner in a very winnable American League Central. And bringing in Alex Bregman would really bring some legitimacy to what they've done there in Detroit. But that would not be the finishing move. They're still going to have to add to that bullpen. The rumors, of course, there we've reported on at numerous times. Kirby Yates, among others. And then, of course, the trade market, if they don't bring in Kirby Yates, Ryan Presley from Houston is one such player that has been connected to the Detroit Tigers over the past couple of weeks. Would not be surprised to see him ultimately dealt there before we get to spring training. As for the Boston Red Sox, the other favorite for Alex Bregman, they certainly have the money to go ahead and bring him in. And Craig Breslow, the GM there, basically didn't quiet any rumors there. Said while he can't speak specifically to players that they are pursuing, they are certainly in the market for a right-handed bat. Take it for how you believe that would ultimately or how you believe their pursuit of Alex Bregman is going. For me, this tells me they really want to bring in Bregman, and they're very comfortable with the finances to bring him in. Sounds like they're comfortable moving Devers over to first base, and then he kind of solidified some of these comments on Tristan Casas, saying that while we're not necessarily looking to move him off of our roster, we currently envision him as part of the long-term solution here in Boston. He didn't necessarily rule it out completely about a trade. Did not definitively say, no, we are not trading to Tristan Casas. He's a big part of our future. There's no chance we're looking to move him. Now, of course, there's been speculation about a Mariners trade that would send Luis Castillo in exchange for Tristan Casas and Yoshida. Red Sox supposedly were not interested in a Casas for Luis Castillo framework. Meanwhile, the Mariners weren't necessarily interested in just a Casas trade anyway. They were still looking for multiple bats to that lineup. Yoshida is considered a contract that is quote-unquote underwater, a negative asset. And so while Casas is seen as a good asset to bring in, attaching a bad contract there in Yoshida could offset the money that they're looking to spend on Bregman, making it more palatable for that front office and the ownership group to be able to make that addition in Bregman. So we'll see what they do, but it certainly seems like a two-horse race now for Alex Bregman between the Detroit Tigers and the Boston Red Sox. Let us know in the comment section where you think he ultimately goes. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Got 40 of you guys with us already on New Year's Eve, just crossing the 9-minute plateau. We just hit 2,100 subscribers this afternoon, so if you guys wouldn't mind helping us out, continuing to climb and finish the year strong, we would greatly appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Roy, good luck, Flaherty, World Series champion. Yes, he did win the World Series with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I do think it'd be a confusing fit there in Baltimore. I still think there's other fits for him out there on the market that would likely be better. The question is, does he get the money that he might be getting from the Baltimore Orioles? Remains to be seen. Bregman to Tigers would be a big blow to both New York teams. Honestly, I'm not sure if it'd be a big blow to both teams. I think that they need a third baseman, yes, with the New York Yankees, but I don't think they're ever going to go to a Bregman number at this point. We got an update for you guys on Nolan Arenado as to why money has become a big issue for them, even more so than we originally thought, or way back when, and even more so over the past week. It's really become clear where the finances are for the Yankees. As for the Mets, sure, they could use a backup for a Pete Alonso. Say if they lose Pete Alonso to the Giants in free agency, then they could easily pivot to Alex Bregman, a younger, better offensive piece, more well-rounded piece, a defensively versatile piece versus Pete Alonso. But I see the Tigers getting Bregman as a big boon for their team and a big win for their chances to win the division there in the Central. So while it does take a piece away from their both of those New York teams that they might be able to bring in, I don't think they're necessarily fearing the Detroit Tigers as of yet. Welcome in, Jim. Any news on the Giants? Well, welcome in. If you guys are new here, let's kind of update you guys on where the San Francisco Giants are. They, of course, were in there for Corbin Burnes. They're around the 7-year, $250 million mark, along with the Toronto Blue Jays. And ultimately, Burnes decided to go to the Diamondbacks 6 for 210. The bigger story there is, of course, this offseason is all about moving on from Farhan Zaidi. They didn't bring in any top-flight free agent whenever they had him as their GM. They were basically a consolation prize for any free agent that missed in free agency. They had signed a one-year deal with an opt-out after the first year, just so they could recoup some of their financial wherewithal that year and then go into free agency next year and capitalize on that. We saw that with Carlos Rodon. We saw that with Blake Snell this year. And we saw that many times over with Farhan Zaidi at the helm. Now they bring in Buster Posey. Things are different. They go after one of their targets and get their guy in Willy Adames, 7 for 182. They go after Corbin Burnes and sound like they really were going to get him until Corbin Burnes said, hey, I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I would rather play for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have a need for a starting pitcher next year, so let's go ahead and see if they'll be willing to do it right now. And they got the deal done. For the Giants, though, they did a great job turning the page from Farhan Zaidi by bringing in Willy Adames. The reason that they're going after Pete Alonso right now sounds for two different reasons why it makes some sense anyway. One, they need a power bat in that lineup. They haven't had a power bat at the level of Barry Bonds or anywhere even in that stratosphere since Barry Bonds. Pete Alonso would be a big boon in that regard. Second, again, moving on from Farhan Zaidi. You cannot overstate how big that is when you're trying to recruit free agents to your team. Look at Corbin Burnes. Sure, he turned down the San Francisco Giants because he'd rather play in Arizona. So be it, he wanted to play closer to home. But one could say that this is a continuation of what the Giants have had an issue with, bringing in the top flight free agent. I don't necessarily think that, but if you're a San Francisco Giant front office member, you got to think in terms of recruiting free agents. You get the guy in Willy Adames, but then you immediately lose a guy in Corbin Burnes that you were seen as the favorite to bring in. Whether it's fair, perceived, or not, that's what it ultimately looked like from the outside looking in, and yet again, you miss on it. So to kind of wipe the whole stigma of Farhan Zaidi away from the Giants organization, you can understand why they would pursue Pete Alonso. Now, I still think he goes back to the Mets. I just find it very interesting that they are that far in there for Pete Alonso after missing on Corbin Burnes. I think those are the two primary reasons why it makes sense. The biggest reason why it doesn't, long-term commitment to a first baseman. You're going to have to move over to DH. Does not play defensively well at first base anyway. You have a young prospect coming who's going to be blocked in a year by Pete Alonso. I think they'd rather go the 1 year. Or if I were a front office member there with the Giants, I would be looking for a 1 year option like an Anthony Rizzo, and then go out for Vladdy Guerrero Jr. next year, Kyle Tucker, among others. Sean, are the Cubs done adding bench bats? They just added Brujan. Will they add more bullpen arms? First and foremost, I think they're looking for a number 5 starter. They thought they had their guy in Jesus Luzardo. Medicals, unfortunately, came back negative to where they decided to go, no thank you, and decided to move on. Now, they haven't added anybody to that rotation since Boyd, really. And they still need to add one more starter. Luzardo is going to be that guy. I think free agency is where they're going to have to go to spend the money to bring in a starter. I don't see one on the trade market outside of Jordan Montgomery or Marcus Stroman, but I don't see either of those guys being, an overly likely chance to go to Chicago. Montgomery a little bit more than others, just because you could probably convince the Diamondbacks to eat half of that deal, give up a, 25 to 30 range prospect, and get a deal done. And then you got a number 5 starter who's capable of being significantly more. But I think they're going to go into free agency. My prediction is Andrew Heaney or a player of that ilk goes there. Then they're looking for a closer. That's where they're looking to spend their money. They were looking to add a bullpen option, a closer, somebody of the ilk of Kirby Yates. Tanner Scott's been the more likely name there. But with the money having to be split between both of those priorities, the next biggest priority was going to be adding some bats to that lineup, and it sounds like they're not going to have enough money to get all of those things done. So while they were able to save some money by bringing in Bellinger, sounds like they're going to have to spend more than they originally thought on some starting pitching. Welcome in, Cali Yankee fan. Appreciate you joining us once again. Demon D, Max L, thank you guys for joining us. Hit that like and subscribe if you are new here. Red Bichette could be traded. Rumor Volpe for Bichette probably doesn't happen, but interesting for both teams. I don't think that's a legitimate trade possibility as far as Volpe for Bichette. Bichette, I think, could be moved at the trade deadline. No chance he moves before then. They're trying to save their jobs there. MLB Trade Rumors came out with a list of GMs and front office people and managers that are in their final year of their deals right now. Blue Jays have that written all over that organization. They have to prove themselves, and ownership is anxious to win. So they're not going to be trading Vladdy or Bichette until it's absolutely necessary to do so. And at that point, those guys are out of a job anyway. So, the Blue Jays are in a tough spot right now. They're not going to be moving Bichette. As far as within the division for Volpe, I just don't see a trade fit there either. I think if you're bringing in Bichette, if you're a Yankees front office member, you're not giving up Volpe in that trade. His value is not commensurate for what Bichette is worth. Now, if you're the Blue Jays, of course you'd like to have a young option there at shortstop in Volpe rather than lose Bichette for nothing in free agency, but his value just isn't there. Bichette's value really came down last year after a poor year at the plate, and hopefully he's able to rekindle some of that offensive production this year. I think he will. And so you should be able to get a nice penny at the trade deadline. Is it worth Anthony Volpe? I don't think so. And I'd rather have Volpe defensively at shortstop than Bichette anyway if I'm a Yankees fan. So if we do see Bichette traded, I think it's going to be for other pieces. If he does go to New York and he probably plays third base after the season, then they could revisit the whole thing. But I think it's very unlikely that we see a trade of Bichette to the Yankees. Welcome in, Demon D. Any Yankees news? The Yankees currently, we'll get into the Arenado thing right now. So it sounds like the way the Yankees are viewing things right now is they do not have the money under any circumstances for Alex Bregman. Go ahead and take him completely off the board. With that being said, they still need an impact bat. The next logical choice you'd think would be Nolan Arenado. Remember, the Yankees offered Stroman in exchange for Arenado, with the Cardinals retaining a significant chunk of Arenado's salary while taking on Stroman's deal. That obviously was a no-go. Cardinals have zero interest in taking on Stroman's money, let alone eating more of the money than they were going to have to do in the Astros deal. Well, apparently since that trade offer, there's really been nothing around Nolan Arenado. No rumors between the Yankees and the Cardinals, no rumors about the Dodgers, no contact between any other teams regarding Nolan Arenado. I still expect him to be traded before the season, but I would seriously doubt any trade possibility to the Yankees unless we see a 3-team trade where Stroman goes somewhere else, the Cardinals eat a significant chunk of salary, and the Cardinals get a huge prospect package back for a player that's got 3 years left on his deal, that's declining, is willing to move off of his best defensive position at third base, and may not be the greatest fit long term for that organization. So I think it's unlikely. Is the chance zero? I would think not, but I think it's very unlikely he goes to the Yankees. As for where he goes, honestly, I think it's anybody's guess right now. I don't think there's a team out there that's clamoring for Nolan Arenado. Maybe the Mets ultimately go that direction just because they take advantage of an opportunity on the market, but I just don't see a clear team right now for Arenado. For the Yankees, though, they're still looking at bullpen help. They're still looking to offload Stroman's deal. They're looking for a cheap, low-cost option at third base to pair with one of their young guys. They're hoping seizes that position. Roy, Sean, as a Dodgers fan, can't wait till the Tokyo series. Honestly, I think that's where everybody's at. That series is going to be fantastic and a great way to kick off Major League Baseball 2025. Did a little bit of digging anyway on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Got a few comments from Dodgers fans on a few of my videos asking for a little bit more in-depth analysis of what they've done this offseason. Let's go ahead and head over to MLB Trade Rumors and kind of show you where their offseason is at. So the article that this is basically detailing how much money has been spent by each team. Number 2 spending team this offseason is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Bring in Blake Snell, 5 for 182. Teoscar, 3 for 66. Trinan, 2 for 22. And Conforto, 1 for 17. They still have holes in their bullpen. They still have an issue at the number 5 spot in their rotation. They have Gonsolin in there that they could plug in, but it sounds like Kershaw will be returning. When he does, he'll immediately go on the 60-day IL. They're trying to wait until the very last minute to get that deal done. The reason being is to save a roster spot. Keep that flexibility. Once you get to spring training, then you can put a guy on 60-day IL without taking up a roster, a 40-man spot. So that's how they're going to do that. They're hoping to bring in Roki, Sasaki. I still think they're the favorites. However, less likely than it would have been, say, a week ago in my mind. I still think they're the overwhelming favorite. Padres, Rangers, Giants, Mariners, Cubs, Mets, Yankees, among several other teams still in the running for Sasaki. One bit of news on Sasaki, we'll jump in on that real quick, is that Joel Wolfe had a kind of a conference with a bunch of media members discussing Sasaki's free agency process. Sounds like it's going to go like this. Basically, 20 teams reached out as far as giving a pitch to Sasaki. Sasaki then took that list, whittled it down to several teams, and actually had meetings both in LA and in New York to kind of discuss things with those teams on his own turf. Now he's back in Japan, sorting through those offers and pitches that he had. During those meetings, no player was allowed to join in those meetings, no active player. And then videos were allowed to be presented from those players, though, to kind of see, what the team was looking forward to, have some player interaction, those kinds of things. But none of those guys were allowed in the meetings. Now that he's in Japan right now, sorting through those offers and the meetings that he held, he's going to narrow that down to a list of like 5 or so teams that he's actually going to go and visit the city, visit the facilities, talk more with the management, talk more with the front office, talk more with the pitching coaches there, and just get a better feel for how they're going to help him get better, become one of the greatest pitchers we've ever seen in Major League Baseball, because that's why he's sacrificing over $200 million to come over and play now, just like Shohei did, and come into Major League Baseball. So that's where things stand right now with Roki Sasaki. One note from Joel Wolfe is that he said market size really doesn't matter to him. While it was perceived by the agent anyway that market size would at least be a consideration, Sasaki made a point to tell Wolfe to relay to reporters that while it's a interesting note, it's not going to be a deciding factor on any level. So just because you're in a smaller market team doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a better chance to bring him in than a major market team, because he's looking where he can become the greatest pitcher he possibly can, and that's how he's viewing his free agency this offseason. But back to the Dodgers, and my point that I was hoping to get to here, the Dodgers have done a really nice job solving some of their issues. Looks like they're going to have a little bit of a platoon in their outfield at certain points, but one name I want you guys to kind of keep an eye on in the Rookie of the Year balloting this year is Dalton Rushing. He's going to get a really good shake this year at both backup catcher and in a corner outfield spot. They want his bat on that major league team this year, and I think he's going to get plenty of run. I would expect in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 at bats for Dalton Rushing. Why am I talking about a minor league prospect for the Los Angeles Dodgers when they clearly are spending almost $300 million and spent over $1 billion last offseason? Why am I worried about a minor league prospect coming up? Because he's going to have that kind of impact on that team. And eventually you're going to have some of those homegrown talents come up and produce for you. Now he's blocked at the plate anyway, or behind the plate anyway, behind their current catcher, Will Smith. Now as far as where he could ultimately land long term, I think is still behind the plate. But this year it sounds like the Dodgers played him overwhelmingly in the outfield last year and the year before, played over 274 games in left field last year and the year before to kind of really get a feel for the position while they're still developing him at catcher. That's where they want him to really play long term, but I would expect that bat to play. He has a lot of power in that bat, and expect him to kind of be a name that really jumps off the page that you aren't necessarily expecting from the Los Angeles Dodgers. You expect it from the Freemans, the Betts, the Otanis of the world. You expect it from Muncy. You expect it from Smith. On the pitching side of things, you expect it from Otani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, etc. You don't expect a guy that's coming in his rookie year to come in and make a big-time difference for the Dodgers, and that's exactly what they're going to get. Expect a big year from Dalton Rushing and the Los Angeles Dodgers this upcoming season. They are the favorite on the National League side to get to the World Series and win it ultimately, but Dalton Rushing, I figure, is going to have a bigger than expected impact in that pursuit. Max, Any White Sox updates? White Sox really are looking to move on from Luis Robert, offload that deal, recoup any prospects that they possibly can, and ultimately finish far better than what they did this past season. Now, they're going to have some pieces that they can trade, inevitably, but right now it's moving on from Luis Robert and just having growth from their minor league prospects at the major league level. That's where you're really hoping for, at least this year. I like the manager they brought in, Will Venable. And we'll see, if they're able to get over the 60-win plateau with Venable being there. I'm sure they'll get at least close, maybe a little bit better than. Happy New Year, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Hal Volpe got a Gold Glove at shortstop is beyond me. He's average at best. He's a pretty good defender. Gold Gloves, by the way, have been kind of given to the best offensive player for years at the position. It's only recently that defensive stats have become a lot more valuable, and they've kind of taken away the big bat approach to giving away the Gold Glove away from a lot of the reporters that are out there. They're forcing reporters to notice defense more than they ever have before, and they've done a nice job of it. Is there other shortstops that might have been a better option? Possibly. But I think as far as Gold Gloves go, they're at least representing defensive values more than they ever have been at the past. Are they going to great? Are they ever going to get it perfect every single year? No. Defensive stats in general are still a work in progress, but I would say it's far better than what it was, say, in the 90s. Teflon, welcome in. Sean, any Arenado, or does Arenado still get traded? I do believe he gets traded before spring training. I just don't see a team that's an obvious fit right now. I think it's going to take a team that's going to try to take advantage of the situation here with the Cardinals and Arenado. Get the Cardinals to eat, say, 15-20% of that deal, and then you get your guy for 2-3 years. He's got $60 million left on the deal that's not being paid by the Colorado Rockies. Say if you get the Cardinals to pay down 15% of that deal, 20% of that deal, then it could be more palatable for you to bring in, like the Mets if they wanted to jump on that situation. Teflon, Rangers news. I'd say the best news right now is that they're trying to bring in Kirby Yates. That's their number one priority. Their number two priority right now is Chris Martin. They've already discussed bringing him in this offseason. They even met with him at the winter meetings. He wants to come back to Texas and kind of conclude his career this year by pitching with a closer to home team. The Rangers are one such team. I would expect them to get a deal done. Probably a heavily incentive-laden deal because he does suffer from significant back issues because he is so tall. He suffered from back issues for years. But I would expect a one-year deal, say worth $4 million with maybe $6 million in incentives. And we could see him get signed relatively quickly here this week, hopefully. As far as Corbin Burns, as far as Kirby Yates, Rangers have made him their number one priority to add at their closer. That's where they have the money to spend. They have roughly $18 million that they can still spend on this year's payroll. I'd imagine they'd like to keep some flexibility for the trade deadline, which they could do by backloading a deal with Kirby Yates, say a 2-year, $22 million deal. Could make it work, but they have stiff competition right now for his services from the Arizona Diamondbacks, Detroit Tigers, Chicago Cubs, and others. They could go the trade route. Ryan Helsley comes to mind. Ryan Presley does as well, but I find it very unlikely that the Astros would trade him to the Rangers. But they are certainly looking for a number one closer option. Tanner Scott, to a much lesser degree, is another name to keep an eye on there, along with Robertson and Kenley Jansen as well. Roy, upside, here's why team success matters. Does he want to go to a team that draws 20K at best or fill a stadium? Does he want to wait 6 years like Ohtani and never play in the playoffs or join the Dodgers? Sasaki will deliberate to appease teams complaining about the Dodgers. I don't think it has anything to do with appeasing teams. I think if he wanted to go to the Dodgers right now, he would just say, thanks for the meetings, appreciate the interest, thank you for telling the weaknesses in my own game, thank you for telling me how I could improve, thank you for telling me things that could help me when I do go to the Dodgers. Even if he wanted to go to the Dodgers, he still would take the meetings for those reasons. That would make him better as a player. That would make him better with his new team with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Take outside ideas that the Dodgers may not have presented in their meeting and apply them to his new fit. I'm not saying he's going to go to the Dodgers 100% stone cold lead pipe lock. Nothing like that. But what I am saying is that Sasaki is still favored to go there. He had a good experience there with Ohtani and Yamamoto, who will be his teammates from the World Baseball Classic. And they just won the World Series. You have a great chance to win it again this year. And they've shown the willingness and competitiveness to continue to add to this team even after spending money. Money isn't going to be an issue for him. He's going to be making between $5.1 million and $7.5 million depending on where he goes. $2 million when he's giving up $200 million. While that seems like a lot of money to us, an extra $2 million, I think he's betting on himself and just wants to make sure he gives the best chance for himself to succeed. I still think he wants to play in the postseason. We saw how the 6 years was really wasted for Ohtani with the Los Angeles Angels. I think he's going to take notes from how that worked out and try to find a situation that gets him to the postseason a little bit quicker, which makes sense when you think that the Dodgers are the favorite there. But again, it's not sealed up already. I still think the Padres, Giants, Rangers, Mariners, Cubs, Mets, and Yankees all have a legitimate case that they could bring him in as well. Terry Donovan for Spencer Jones. If I'm the Yankees, I'd probably say no to that one, primarily because I think Spencer Jones they're holding on to for a specific type of a trade. I don't think Donovan is that specific type of a trade that they're looking to make. But I do think it'd be a big boost to the Yankees roster. As for the Cardinals side of things, I would love to see a piece like Spencer Jones come in there. Kind of helps with our timeline, getting younger there. But Donovan is a valuable player for them. So I'm not sure if that return would really overwhelm them to get the deal done. Roy, don't forget the accusations made by the New York teams. I mean, every team is going to complain in the beginning when it comes out so fervently that the Dodgers are the favorite there, and they should be though. I mean, look at how they just won the World Series. If you're looking to come into Major League Baseball, would you rather play for the team that just won the World Series, or would you rather play for a team that's never going to compete for one? Obvious answer. Go to the team that's going to have you compete for a championship. Not saying that's what's going to happen with the Dodgers. I'm just saying, just looking at things clinically here, unbiased, if I was some random free agent, not even applying it to Sasaki or Bregman or anybody else, if all things are equal and I can go play for a team and not have a whole bunch of stress on my shoulders because there's 4 other guys that do the same thing I do that are going to be the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 pitchers in my rotation, I'm going to be counted on as that number 5 guy, maybe even number 6 once Kershaw gets healthy. I can take my time and adjust to the Major League Baseball game, especially when I'm coming in from overseas. New ball, new city, new culture, new country. Those are big time acclamations that he's going to have to make. And as an outside free agent coming into a team, those are big things that would help by going to a team like the Dodgers. Now, I'm not saying other teams don't have very similar advantages, but I am saying a team like the Dodgers, who just won a World Series, have a more compelling case to say that they can win another one because they just did it. So, while it might not be necessarily fair that all teams can't win a World Series, that's the one thing that they have on their shoulder that other teams don't. They also have players that he was successful in winning a World Baseball Classic with, in Ohtani and Yamamoto, that he was friendly with on that World Baseball Classic, on that roster with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm sure if the 2 players were playing with the New York Yankees and the shoe was on the other foot, he would be more interested in going there for those similar reasons. But I think it's all about getting him the best chance to succeed at the Major League Baseball level. I don't think personal relationships with Ohtani and Yamamoto are going to affect him nearly as much as we expected it to. It really does sound like he's going to go to the best team that gives him the best chance to be the greatest he can be, which is exactly what you want. Say you're a parent of a prospect coming up, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid that's hoping to be drafted in the Major League Baseball draft. What are you hoping for your guy? What are you hoping for your son? That they can get up to a great team, that they can treat him right, that they can build on him and make him the best version of himself that he could possibly be? Absolutely. And that's where I think Sasaki is looking to do this offseason. He wants to be the greatest, and I think he's going to do whatever it takes to get to that level. If it's with one of the New York teams, so be it. If it's with the San Diego Padres, so be it. Giants, so be it. If it's with the Texas Rangers, so be it. Wherever he thinks he has the greatest chance to be successful is where he will ultimately sign. All right, one other thing I really wanted to get into here is what's really happened so far this offseason. Yes, we know Bregman's still out there, but where are we at with free agency? We've got roughly 25% of free agents already signed this offseason. We're over halfway through. Pitchers and catchers report in just over a month. Baseball is not too far away. Spring training is, a month and a half, 2 months away? We're getting closer and closer and closer to it. So let's dig in on some of the spending teams have already done this offseason. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you guys join us every single night as we break down all the latest information from MLB's Hot Stove season and throughout the regular season as well. Appreciate you guys joining us. Got about 85 of you guys with us on New Year's Eve. Hopefully you guys are having a great New Year's. I know, Lucas, you already got to celebrate New Year's. Hopefully you got to go to the, where were you looking to go? The Eiffel Tower, I think. Did you get there? But appreciate you joining us once again. Welcome in VPCZX. Appreciate you joining us once again. But let's go ahead and dig in on where spending is already done. Mets, of course, the big spender. Greatest contract we've ever seen in professional sports history. Juan Soto, 15 for $765. That wasn't all they've done. They've added several starting pitchers. Sean Manaea, Clay Holmes, Frankie Montas, Griffin Canning. Hopefully Canning will have to earn that spot in that rotation, but they've done a nice job building out that rotation. Is it the greatest in the National League? No. Is it at least enough with Kodai Senga and the other pieces that they have to at least be a good starting rotation, good enough starting rotation to allow their offense to really, obliterate the other team, to stay in it long enough for their offense to really catch fire and win these games? They're going to be an offense-led team. They still are looking to spend more money. They're clearly going to spend more than $100 million this offseason. I think Pete Alonso signs for, say, $150 million. That clearly puts them over the billion category there. But they've done a nice job this offseason. They still have more holes to fill, though. They have the money to do so because, again, it's Steve Cohen. Number 2, Los Angeles Dodgers. We just talked about Dalton Rushing coming up and taking one of those corner outfield spots this year. I think he's going to be great for that team. But Blake Snell, 5 for $182. Teoscar, 3 for $66. Their shopping is mostly done on the position player side. They're looking for starting pitching and bullpen right now. We'll see where they ultimately bring in some pieces here. Let's see. New York Yankees, they spent $235 million, most of that on Max Fried. And then, of course, the trade targets that they brought in, Cody Bellinger and in Devin Williams as well. Number 4, mainly because of the Corbin Burnes thing, 6 years at $210 million. They really strengthened that rotation. That's going to be a real strength for them this upcoming season. But they have a hole at closer. We'll see if they bring in Kirby Yates. Yankees are still looking for third baseman. They're looking for bullpen help as well, offloading Stroman's deal, and then maybe they go after a long reliever spot starter type of guy as well. For the Mets, for the Dodgers first, they're still looking for bullpen, and then, of course, Roki, Sasaki, and Clayton Kershaw. And then for the Mets, they're still looking for first base with Alonso and an eighth-inning guy as well. There are rumors that they are interested in adding a third baseman as well. So that's kind of where the holes are on those top 5 teams. With the San Francisco Giants spending on Willy Adames, again, they've been connected to Pete Alonso. I think it's just about having a successful offseason and building towards 2025, where they can bring in Vlad Guerrero Jr., where they can bring in Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, whoever the top free agent is that they want to target next year. I think it's all about building for that free agent class and seeing what they have at that point. Number 6, the Texas Rangers have spent quite a bit of money this offseason, $130 million. Nathan Eovaldi, 3 for $75. Jock, 2 for $37. Higashioka, 2 for $13.5. Miller, Webb, Armstrong, and Carvalho, 1-year deals on all of those guys, low-cost options. Biggest hole on that roster is still at that closer spot. Kirby Yates, again, is the target that they're hoping for. If they go the trade route, if they miss on Yates, expect a deal with Ryan Helsley of the St. Louis Cardinals. Number 7, the Angels. The surprise there is that they brought in Yusei Kikuchi, 3 for $63. Like the d'Arnaud deal, 2 for $12. I like the addition on 1-year deals for Newman and Hendricks as well. But the Kikuchi deal stands out to me as the albatross there. And then, of course, if you guys missed our live yesterday, we went off on the Angels' pursuit of Anthony Santander. I invite all of you guys to check that one out. Let's just say that they are one of the 2 favorites for him, along with the Toronto Blue Jays. I really hope they reconsider that position. I've really gone after the Los Angeles Angels the last couple of years, especially with how they handled Shohei Ohtani in several different off seasons and at the trade deadline, and then investing in free agents or rental options anyway to try to convince Shohei to stay there and try to win a postseason series or even get to the postseason. How colossally dumb that decision really was, and really set their organization back. And now they're set to do something very similar here with Anthony Santander. But if you want to check out our comments, I invite you guys to check that one out. Certainly entertaining, as many of you guys in my chat can attest to. VPCZX, my Blue Jays have embarrassed us. I wouldn't say embarrassed. I would say that they set themselves up for failure at this point. They didn't bring in any options to kind of set this team up for success going forward. They didn't bring in stability. That's the biggest problem with the Blue Jays right now. Where is the stability really going to come from? Vladdy, is he going to sign an extension before spring training? I would say not. Same with Bo Bichette? I would say not. You look at that rotation. Barrios, you're pinning your hopes on as the ace of that staff in 3 years. I don't know about that. He could have been when he was with the Minnesota Twins, but he started to have his ERA really inflate with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a strikeout artist, absolutely, but he gives up way too many home runs. He's not a guy I would necessarily pin my hopes to if I'm Alex Bregman hoping to compete for a wild card spot even in the American League. While it is wide open in the American League, the Blue Jays could very well find themselves in the cellar of the AL East this year and find themselves in a complete and total rebuild situation. That front office could have complete and utter changeover, as well as the management staff. Vladdy could be gone. Bichette could be gone. Where is the stability? That's the problem with the Blue Jays right now. Lucas, I was near Champs Elysees at 12 a.m., currently in the hotel. Appreciate you joining us. Holly, you roasted the whole Angels organization last night. Yes, I certainly did. They earned it. I really hope they don't bring in Santander, because if you think last night was bad, it's going to be biblical how far I'm going to go on the Angels. That's how much they should not bring in Santander. I usually don't like to go that hard after a team. The Angels are the rare exception because they have not done smart baseball things the last 3 years, and they're continuing to act in that manner. Now, some of these moves are smart. Darno, I like. Hendricks, I like. Newman, I like. Ron Washington, I like. But yet they continue to be rumored about Pete Alonso. They're rumored now as a favorite for Santander. They don't handle Ohtani well the final 2 years he's there. There's just not smart baseball decisions being made there from an ownership level, from a front office level on down. It just hasn't been good, smart baseball decisions that were being made. And that's my problem with it. And until they fix those issues, and I'm going to continue to have an issue with it. Now, if they double down here, triple down by bringing in Santander, like I said, tune in. You're not going to want to miss that rant. It's going to be biblical. So, as far as the Angels go, I really hope they continue this trend of one-year deals like the Rangers did. Look at these bullpen deals that they made. That's what the Angels should be doing right now. Low-cost bullpen options that if they catch fire on one-year deals, you can flip them and get you some nice pieces back in return. That's the route they should be going. We'll see if they do so. Let's see here. Sorry, Blue Jays fans. Vladdy Daddy wants to be a Ranger. I don't know if he wants to be, but he's going to have his pick of wherever he wants to go for this offseason. How long are you here for? Probably be live for another 20, 30 minutes or so. Probably break down the rest of the league, where the rest of the free agent contracts have really gone. Update on X, and then answer some more questions. Maybe do a trade or two, and then we'll call it an evening and celebrate New Year's. We are in the Central Time Zone, so it's 9:25 here, 10:25 on the East Coast. So we might watch the ball drop, we might not. We'll see. Gotta have dinner yet. I still haven't eaten after working all day, so I'm pretty hungry at this point. We had potluck all day, but as I said, insurance. People have to use their insurance for the end of the year, so it's quite busy at work. So didn't get to eat much potluck, but it was still very good. But I'm hungry. So we'll probably be live for another 20, 30 minutes, probably somewhere in that range. But let's kind of continue our trend here with these teams. Baltimore Orioles are 8 on this list. They spent $71 million, a nice offseason so far. But the big caveat there, where's the number one starting pitcher that they brought in to replace Corbin Burnes? Trade? Not yet. Free agent? Not yet. And that's my worry, is that they're not going to end up with one. I don't see one as good as Corbin Burnes coming in, no matter who they get, unless it's at the trade deadline for Pablo Lopez or Alcantara. Then we can change our tune on the Baltimore Orioles. But it sounds like they could be after Flaherty at the moment on the free agent market. Dylan Cease sounds like their favorite on the trade market. That'd be more of the same if they went after Cease. I don't like that possibility. And then, of course, Luis Castillo as well has been rumored there. A's have once again spent this offseason, bringing in Luis Severino 3 for $67. But they still need to spend another $13 to $15 million to really stop the MLBPA from issuing a grievance against them regarding revenue sharing. You have to spend a certain amount over the revenue sharing threshold in order to be eligible, or in order to avoid a grievance being filed against you and a fine being levied. Athletics are in danger of having that happen, so expect them to take on a salary at some point via trade and capitalize on that payroll that they need to spend. Now, what was the other team? The Marlins are another team that has to do something similar there as well. But the A's have done a nice job spending, but they need to do more of it. They had a really good offense last year. They bring in 2 starting pitchers so far this offseason. Jeffrey Springs via trade, Luis Severino via free agency. I like the addition of Gio Urshela, but I don't think that rules them out of possibly being in there for Alec Boehm as well. So we'll see what happens, but the A's still need to add some more salary. We get on to the Houston Astros, 3 for 60, but their offseason additions have been pretty good on the trade market, moving Kyle Tucker and bringing in Paredes, and their now number 1 prospect in the Astro system, Cam Smith. So, like the deal that they made, really like the the offseason the Astros have had, but it's still a work in progress. They need to replace Kyle Tucker in the outfield. They've replaced Bregman with Paredes. They've got a first baseman now in Christian Walker. Who are they going to bring in for their outfield? Santander was my guess, but it sounds like Santander is probably going to be picking between the Blue Jays and Angels. You know my thoughts on that discussion already. I would like Santander, but it sounds like the Astros might have to go with one of those other options, like a Jurickson Profar, who I still think ends up with the Padres. But we'll see where they go. Framber Valdez is probably the biggest priority on the pitching side of things. Get that extension done. If you don't, we could see a trade of Valdez before spring training. That would be another name to keep in mind for the Baltimore Orioles and others looking for impact starting pitchers as well. Boston has spent $52 million already this offseason, but that's not nearly enough to satisfy the Boston Red Sox faithful. They were told they were going to continue to spend this offseason and invest heavily this offseason in their team. Does that look like heavily long-term commitment anywhere in there? No. I like the additions they've made. The trade for Crochet. Love the additions to their starting staff with Buehler, Sandoval as well, bringing in a couple of lefties to their bullpen there in Chapman and Wilson. They still could use another bullpen arm, but they're looking for a right-handed bat. That was stated by Craig Breslow in media availability today, and Bregman is certainly one bat that they've been connected to quite a bit. So we'll see if they're able to get the job done. It sounds like their offer right now on the table is better than what Detroit has been able to offer so far. But it could very well be Bregman deciding to go to Detroit because that's where he prefers to play, just like we saw with Corbin Burns going to Arizona. So the Red Sox might end up as a bridesmaid once again there. I really hope it doesn't happen because if they're able to get Bregman, then I think the offseason really gets moving on the trade front with Casas becoming expendable, Yoshida and Casas for Castillo becoming a lot more of a front burner item for the Seattle Mariners. That's something I'm really keeping my eye on with the Boston Red Sox, is the market for Alex Bregman. Then you look at their outfield. They're going to have Abreu still out there. They're going to have to find a home for Roman Anthony out there. They're trying to move off of Yoshida's deal. If they're able to bring in Bregman, I think they'd have a greater chance to move off of Yoshida's deal by attaching Casas to it and trying to reinvest their money that way. But we'll see what Boston does as far as bringing in a right-handed bat. Cleveland has done a really nice job offloading Jimenez's deal this offseason. Bringing in Horowitz, flipping him for 3 pieces from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They bring in Shane Bieber, 2 years, $26 million. They trade away Naylor for some future pieces. 1 year of Naylor. They end up bringing in Carlos Santana, 1 year. Very comparable players overall, but you'd have to say the offense is going to be a little bit worse with the Guardians by losing Naylor. Santana's a better defensive player, a better all-around, well-utilized piece in that lineup. Very comfortable there with the Cleveland Guardians. This is his 3rd stint with that team, I believe. He had just finished closing on the paperwork of selling his home in Cleveland finally. And then right after that, immediately gets a call from the Guardians and says, hey, we have a deal in place to move on from Naylor. You want to sign here? He says, yep, they get the deal done. So now he's got to find a whole new house. Kind of an interesting story that I heard anyway from the Guardians. So, he gets to stay in Cleveland after all. But they still need to add some offensive punch to this team in my estimation. I like the team overall, but they just need one more bat to really help out that lineup. So we'll see what happens there. Cubs, they've spent almost $41 million. They traded away, Cody Bellinger this offseason to help save themselves some money. They have a little bit of money to spend, not a whole lot. They bring in Kyle Tucker as well. Big moves being made by the Cubs, but now they are left with a hole at the number 5 spot in that rotation. They're looking for a closer for their bullpen, and they probably need another bat in that lineup as well, or 2. But they still have some work to do. So we'll see what they do. They're supposedly all in on 25, but we'll see what they bring in. Welcome in, Sam. Happy New Year to all you guys out there. Make sure you tell us where you're celebrating New Year in the chat. We'd really appreciate you guys, letting us know where you're watching from and hitting that like and subscribe. And we've had a great year, a great last month of the year, closed strong here at the Upside. And like I said, for all you guys that are new here, we're going to be live every single night from here on forward, bringing you the latest from MLB's Hot Stove, and into the regular season. We'll be live every single night, keeping you up to date on all the latest rumors, speculation, trade ideas, latest signings, and everything that's going to impact your favorite team. So make sure you guys join us here at the Upside and hit that subscribe button. What's with the Sung Kims? Both Kims are out there. I think if you're looking for a glove-first player, both of those players are decent options out there. I haven't really heard any team with significant interest. Padres still make sense. Giants still make sense to a certain extent. But there's a few other teams as well that could be in the market for those guys. But nothing is really clear as of yet as far as a favorite or a team to keep an eye on. Those types of things. The Detroit Tigers, that's the one team it sounds like could be the real suitor here for Alex Bregman. So far this offseason, they bring in Gleyber Torres, 1 year, $15 million. Another 1 year, $15 million contract for Alex Cobb. They're still looking for a closer. Kirby Yates is the one that they've been connected to in free agency. If they spend the money on bringing in Alex Bregman, I imagine they're going to continue to spend at the closer spot. If they don't get Yates, I would expect a call to once again be placed to the Houston Astros. Astros are looking to save the money on Presley, use that money to bring in a corner outfield bat like a Santander, like a Profar. Lots of dominoes that could fall with a Alex Bregman signing or a Kirby Yates signing or a trade of Ryan Presley. Lots of dominoes that can fall there, but the Tigers are certainly looking for all the upgrades they can possibly add this offseason. Washington Nationals spent 29. They just re-signed Trevor Williams. They bring in Mike Soroka. Absolutely love that signing. Josh Bell, 1 year, $6 million. Last chance he really has to stay in Major League Baseball. And then, of course, they make the trade to bring in Nathaniel Lowe. The story is not this offseason for the Nationals. It's about getting their young team, productive at bats at the Major League level, seeing what pieces ultimately are long-term pieces for the Nationals and who really struggled and where they're going to have to add to this team. Expect them to spend significant dollars in free agency next year. I'm talking $70+ million in payroll that's going to be added for 2026. So expect some big-time contracts out of the Nationals next year. And remember, the Nationals and Rizzo are very friendly with Scott Boras. They have no qualms about spending big free agent dollars to help improve their roster. And they have some of the best prospects in Major League Baseball, both on the pitching and hitting side of things. I would expect a big-time addition or 2 or 3 next year. Sam, any number 2 pitcher trade for the Giants? Okay, so I guess we have to preface this conversation that, quote-unquote, Burns would have been a number 2 for that team, end quote. But you still have Webb there. You still have some of the good young pieces there. Robbie Ray is still there. As far as number 2 trade, I know some fans out there are hoping for Dylan Cease. That's not happening within the division. Maybe they capitalize once again on the Mariners' need to offload some salary, take on the deal for Luis Castillo. I see that as very unlikely as well. As far as a trade period, I don't necessarily see them getting too deep into the market on the trade side of things. Now in free agency, I could see them bringing a number 3 or a 4 type starter, an Andrew Heaney, Nick Pivetta type of starter. Not saying Nick Pivetta the player himself, but that level of starting pitcher. Jack Flaherty makes some sense as well. But let's kind of wrap up some of these spending here and where some teams really fall here. Philadelphia Phillies, that's one team that's really spent their lot right now. They bring in Romano. He's probably going to function as their closer. Gets 1 year, $8.5 million. Kepler, 1 year, $10 million. They bring in Jesus Luzardo, and now their roster's basically set. They don't have the flexibility to shake up this roster like we were expecting from the outside of this offseason, and they're stuck with what they've got. They're going to have to count on internal improvements, which you really have to expect more out of Trey Turner. Honestly, that's the biggest improvement I think that they can make is Trey Turner getting back to what we expect from Trey Turner. Castellanos having Kepler there to take him off his feet for a little bit, give him an extra 20 games off, I think is really going to help him out. Castellanos played in all 162 last year, so getting him off his feet I think will help his bat in general, so we'll see what happens there as far as how successful that team is next year. But I still think they're in the top 3 teams on the National League side of things. Roy Vegas Baby, originally from Port, I'm not sure how to pronounce that one, Hunemi? Pretty sure I butchered that one. Port Hunemi, Vegas Baby, appreciate you joining us. Been to Vegas quite a few times. Been to California probably twice in my life. Basically for 1 hour, or I say 1 hour, probably a 3-hour layover at 3 a.m. one time. And then I had another 8-hour layover. I planned it that way just so I could go to the beach and, travel around the city a little bit just to say I'd been to Los Angeles and, look around a little bit. But Vegas I've been to, 5, 6 times so far. And every time it's it's always so much fun, and I just love sitting up even in the hotel room, just looking out at the mountains and at the strip at night. That's quite a visual just to kind of relax and unwind. It's a lot of fun to be there. So it's a good spot to watch some fireworks, I imagine, as well for New Year's. Yodel, Happy New Year. Appreciate you joining us. Got about 80 of you guys with us. If you guys are enjoying your Happy New Year, let us know in the chat. Hit that like on the video. It does go a long way to helping us out here at the Upside. And, like I said, we're going to be bringing you live content every single night. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date on all the latest from the hot stove season. Let's kind of go through the rest of these teams really kind of rapid fire here. Reds bring in Nick Martinez, 1-year qualifying offer. They're still looking for an innings-eating type of starter. They've been connected to Nick Pivetta. I wonder if they end up with a Kyle Gibson type, who they've been connected with as well, or a Lance Lynn. They're also looking for another bat in their outfield as well. Jesse Winker makes some sense there, or another player of that ilk. Blue Jays, of course, have missed on every single target they've really brought in. That they've tried to bring in anyway. They bring back Yemi Garcia after trading him this past year, 2 for $15 million, but that's not really any long-term stability for that team. Yanemi, okay, so thank you for that. Appreciate that. But as far as the Blue Jays go, they have missed the boat this offseason. I would have gone about bringing in some lower-level free agents to show some stability for free agents of that this team is going to be a contender, at least for a wild card spot, if Vladdy and Bo Bichette do indeed leave. So, but for the Blue Jays, they've missed the boat here on Burns. They missed the boat on Soto. They missed the boat on free agents last year as well. I really hope this isn't the beginning of their San Francisco Giants phase, if you will, under Farhan Zaidi. But it sounds like we're going towards a rebuild, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down. Rays, again, they're not going to spend a whole lot. 1 year, $8.5 million on Danny Jansen. They offload the contract of Jeffrey Springs. They still are looking to offload some other contracts in Lau, Diaz, their relief pitcher Fairbanks as well. They have some contracts that they're looking to move. Corey Littrell, I think is his name, is another name that could be moved before we get to spring training. But they're going to have McClanahan back this year. Franco, of course, is having his criminal thing going on overseas. Hopefully he never steps foot on a baseball field ever again. But bad dude there. But Rays are still going to be a good team, but they're not going to do anything big as far as free agency dollars. They might do what the Rangers did and add a whole bunch of guys on one-year deals to that bullpen and really capitalize on that. That's what they've done in the past, and we'll see if they continue to do so. Rockies, not going to focus too much on that one because, again, they're a team in a deep rebuild right now. I do not see a light at the end of the tunnel right now. Pirates, they do what they can to try to add around the periphery of this team, bringing back Kutch on a 1-year, $5 million deal to trade of Horowitz. I like that addition there. I would have thought a piece like Nathaniel Lowe would have been a great addition for this team as well, or a Carlos Santana. Maybe they go out there and bring in Anthony Rizzo, but I think they are looking for a corner infield bat, most likely a first baseman that could bring some real thump to that lineup and help them perform better offensively. That's really where their biggest area of improvement does lie. White Sox, they've only spent about $5 million, really not doing anything as much or bringing in anything of real talent there. It's all about building for the future. Braves, they've really kind of stuck to their budget right now. They don't have a whole lot to spend. They're looking for a number 5 starter. They were in there for Nathan Eovaldi. Obviously, the money turned out to be too much. Sounds like Charlie Morton has been hoping to come back there, but it sounds like the Braves are hoping for a better player than Morton at this point. So they targeted Nathan Eovaldi. That didn't happen. I would expect them to try to go after some of these trade targets out there as well. Maybe an Andrew Heaney. Maybe you see a Jack Flaherty go there. I think that would be a good fit for him as well if he doesn't go to Baltimore. They're looking for a corner outfield bat to kind of help them out. And remember, Acuna's coming back from injury. If I were them, I'd be looking for a bat kind of like Profar, who could be a replacement out there if Acuna gets hurt again or struggles in his return, where they need to kind of take it slow with him, work him back in the lineup slowly. Then you have Profar there to really lead off for this team and help them out offensively and at a position of need. So that's where I'm keeping my eyes peeled for with the Braves. The Marlins have done a nice job with some trades this offseason. The one trade that I do not like that they made is the Jesus Luzardo deal. They're looking to kind of go and sell at the deadline this year and recoup some value from some of their young starting pitchers and controllable starting pitchers that they have. That was their plan last year. Because of poor performance and injury, they really didn't get to do that. So they're going to just rinse and repeat and hope it works out better this year. Brewers don't have a lot of money, so they used what they had in Devin Williams and brought in a starting pitcher in Nestor Cortez and fixed their issue that way. Expect them to add some smaller pieces on the periphery of this team. 1 year $3, 1 year $2 million type of deals. Nothing major, though. Royals have really done nothing as far as free agency, but their big addition was via trade with Jonathan India. I think they're going to go back to what really worked for them that got them all the way to the World Series those years ago, and that's speed and defense, contact rate, and those kinds of things. And that's what Jonathan India brings to them in spades. Speed and contact rate. And I think he's going to really be a great fit in front of Bobby Witt Jr. at the top of that lineup. We're going to see Bobby Witt's RBIs jump probably by 20 next year. He could very well win the MVP on the American League side just because of the addition of Jonathan India. I just think makes his counting stats go up just that much more. Twins, I think they're in a very tough spot. They're the fourth best team right now in that division with no upside right now. They're looking to offload the contract of Carlos Correa. They're looking to sell the team. We could see Pablo Lopez be traded at the deadline or at next year's winter meetings. San Diego Padres have three guys that are headed towards free agency in Cease, King, and Arise. They could trade two of those guys as far as I'm concerned. I think they will. I think they'll try to get a contract extension done with Michael King, though. Michael King, the starting pitcher. I think they are looking to bring back Jurickson Profar. As far as free agency, I think that's where their big expenditure will really come. That and in the bullpen. Mariners, they have roughly $15 million to spend. That's not going to bring in any of those top bats, and so that's kind of why their hands are tied right now to kind of help improve that team. Luis Castillo is really their only option to free up some payroll flexibility to get things done. Cardinals looking to offload Arenado. We'll see if they're able to do so. I think they will by spring training, but they're looking to rebuild as well. Alrighty. So that's kind of where spending is right now across Major League Baseball this offseason, where the market is at. Let's head over to X and see if anything is happening this evening. Let's see. Pretty. There we go. You got the college football playoff going on. I can't see what the score is, though. There it is, 14-17. Penn State looks like they're going to win that one. Former Red Sox Southpaw getting interest from a handful of teams after posting a 2.69 ERA. Let's go ahead and head over to MLB Trade Rumors and see if we can figure out who that is. I do not see who that is. So let's see what the link is here. Oh, Kyle Hart. I saw that article earlier. He's going to be an interesting name as far as a relief pitcher. That might come over here. 26 starts. I'm not sure he gets a starting job somewhere in baseball this year. I think if he does go somewhere, reliever, long relief, earn your job out of spring training is probably the more likely option there. Maybe a team like the Rockies would look at him and say, "Hey, we'll give you a spot in the Rockies rotation." But a team that's a contender isn't going to look at Kyle Hart and give him a spot in their rotation. I think he'd have to earn it, but hopefully he finds some success there. The teams that are mentioned here: Astros, Brewers, Orioles, Twins, and Yankees. Twins probably are the team that would be the most likely fit there out of that group. Maybe the Brewers as well. Alrighty. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I want to thank you guys for spending some time with us on New Year's. Hopefully you guys had a great Christmas with your family and get to spend some time with your friends and family on New Year's as well. Make sure you take care of yourselves and really appreciate the support that you've given us. Been a great close to the year this year. We've gained almost 500 subscribers in just the last month alone. So thank you guys for liking and subscribing to our channel here. Really do appreciate the support that you guys have given us. We're going to go ahead and wind it down for tonight. I'm absolutely starving. Been a long day and got to celebrate with the family as well, the New Year's celebration. So I hope you guys enjoy the New Year's festivities. We'll be live tomorrow. We'll do 2 lives tomorrow. We'll do one in the morning. I have off tomorrow on New Year's Day. So probably around 11 o'clock in the morning, Central Time, maybe a little earlier, not much earlier, probably 10:30 at the earliest. We'll have our live, and then if anything big happens throughout the day, of course, we'll go live. If Bregman signs on New Year's Day, of course, we'll go live. But then we'll have our nightly recap as well. So make sure you join us for both of those lives. And if you guys enjoy the content, let us know. Hit that like button. If you have a question, you want to submit a comment when we're not live, I do try to keep up with those comments and read those as much as I can. And really do appreciate the words of encouragement. Thank you guys for the super chats that you've sent us over the last couple of months. Really has been nice the way you guys have supported our channel and help it grow. Thank you guys. Got about 32 likes on the video. 70 of you guys are watching right now. Make sure you guys hit that like on the video. It would really help us out during the overnight hours. For those who can't watch our video during the live, if you guys wouldn't mind helping us out with that and hitting that like and subscribe as well. VPCZX. Happy New Year, everyone. Exactly. Stay safe and remember, drink responsibly. Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys, and Happy New Year, everybody. Y'all take care.